Walter, I've done it.
Got it. You ready? Brave the outside. I've got it.
My BatAbility Club membership. So what can the BatAbility Club membership bring to your team? Well, in the words of Neil,
on occasion, quite a few occasions, save some people a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of uncertainty.
And whilst you're saving this time, money and uncertainty, you can watch Neil faffing about with paper.
First of all, a little bit of packaging. Love that. Not going to need it again. Who cares? And then we've got the most important thing. That packaging doesn't want to leave me. Do you see that? It can go away. Wow, there it goes. It's come back. It's amazing. Some people would pay a lot of money for a bit of packaging like that.
And whilst we ponder about who that person may be, we can also watch Neil talk bat with some of his favourite people.
Talking bat with us today is Mr. Chris Corbin, talking bat with Dr. Susan Swift, talking bat interview. And oh wow, have we got one amazing guest speaker today.
There's also a huge library being created of great training material on a wealth of subjects, like hibernation.
These scenarios that are non-classic. And we're going to start with the middle column. And I'm also going to ask you to take your minds back to the beginning of today's webinar when we had table 4.1, where we had the roosting potential and the foraging commuting potential. This is the reason why we did that, was in order to link that
and difficult calls
to today's BatAbility session called Acoustic Identification, Nocturals, Leislers and Serotine Species, aka Go Big or Go Home, Call Me a Taxi. Middleton, you are a taxi. This may appear to be a pretty straightforward subject, but by the virtue of the number of people that have logged on to this webinar, this is something that we all struggle with, and it might be heartening for you to know that it's something that quite often I struggle with as well.
And it's not always about bats. There's business webinars too.
What do you get out of this awkward elevator? What's your thoughts on it?
I totally get it, obviously. You can be having a really nice, pleasantly cool conversation, and then all of a sudden, that's it. And sometimes there hasn't been any preamble. You're not aware of why the situation's changed, why the person's reaction is as it was. So it is very important that at that point, you maybe take some time. You don't kind of let things just snowball. The second something happens, you should then be trying to think, well, I didn't see that coming. What has caused it? Have a conversation with the person, kind of distract a moment and try to get to the root of what caused that, if it's something that you were unaware of.
There's monthly Ask Me Everything sessions.
Sent me some calls for today's session. Quite a lot of calls actually, John, but I loved the way he described it. He said, could you maybe do a few of these in the Ask Me Anything session? Because if you did them all, it would be more like an Ask Me Everything session.
There may be some technical difficulties along the way.
All right, okay, something very odd is going on. Can you see the words at the bottom?
I can, yes.
Right, what did I do?
I don't know, it's like you've turned on some kind of, not subtitles, but that kind of...
Okay, hold on a minute, hold on. Right, I think we're back. It's
a live webinar, folks, don't you love it?
And there'll be plenty of banter, but not always from Neil.
Today I played an affectionate game of Neil Bingo. The three categories were 1, when you say the word scenario, 2, when you take a sip of tea, and 3, when you take a sip of water. The results were as follows. Oh no! Scenario was said 49 times. I don't believe that. Only 1 sip of tea today, very unlike you, and no sips of water. Let's hope you don't get dehydrated.
But he always has one thing on his mind.
For this, you've got to understand what's the job. Now, before you think the job is, it's a bat survey, that is not the job. That's not even your job. The job is understand what the client's aspirations are, what the client's timeline is, what the client's approach is going to be. So it's the kind of the who, why, what, where, when, how.
And every time Neil gets a new member, he does a little boogie.